Welcome back to the Rick Smith Show. Now, here is Rick Smith.
So it's Tucker Carlson Day. Today is the day the Tucker Carlson propaganda reel drops on some Fox streaming network somewhere, and I can't wait to not see it because evidently, according to the Fox Tucker Carlson propaganda reel trailer, we're hunting white people. Not only are we hunting white people, we're dragging them off to Guantanamo Bay. We're waterboarding and torturing them. We're doing all kinds of stuff, bad stuff. All because January 6th was it was a false flag, while simultaneously being a walk in the park, a frat party, just another day, or the most patriotic day in American history, depending on which propaganda thing you're consuming. And I got to tell you, the rewriting of January 6th is really troubling to me, especially because, Democrats have been so slow, in my view, of prosecuting these criminals, members of Congress, the moneyed interests, and our judicial system has just simply sucked on this. Slap on the wrists at best, not even that. It's infuriating. And here to share some thoughts on, our January 6th problem. And as he points out, you don't need to be Perry Mason to find January 6th conspiracy, just the courage to pursue it. And do we have the courage? That's why I've asked Will Bunch to come talk with us. Will is a daily columnist over at the Philadelphia Daily News and Enquirer. Will, thanks for taking time for us.
Hey, Rick, thanks for having me back. I appreciate it.
So I love that line. You don't need to be Perry Mason to figure this stuff out.
Well, it's funny in the column, actually, I pointed out not only do you not need to be Perry Mason, you don't even need to be Hamilton Berger, which is one of the great TV names of all time. Hamilton Berger was the DA who lost every case except one, famously, but lost every other case to Perry Mason in the entire history of the show. But you know what? Hamilton Berger could have made a conspiracy case against these guys.
Yeah, he was the Washington Generals of basketball.
Yeah, exactly. Washington Generals. I love it.
This is one of those things, though. By not pursuing this aggressively, as we should have on January 6th and 7th, and by having the kind of slap on the wrist, couple of months in jail, maybe some probation, a little fine, we're playing right into the rewrite, the propaganda being put forth by people like Tucker Carlson.
Yeah, absolutely. And my big issue on this is, why are we not going after the bigger fish? And of course, obviously Donald Trump is the biggest fish, but put him aside for a second. What about Rudy Giuliani? What about John Eastman, this lawyer who worked with Giuliani and the rest of the team who wrote up this memo? What about Steve Bannon, who obviously has something to hide, which is why he's not testifying? What about Roger Stone, who clearly is a confidant of Donald Trump and who was pardoned by Trump just days before January 6th and was photographed multiple times in D.C. with leaders of the Proud Boys? What about Michael Flynn? I could go on and on. I could give you 15 high-level names, including some of these members of Congress who we know a little bit less about their January 6th activities, but we know enough that they should at least be investigated, right? And this whole debate about, I think, 600 or 800 of the, what you might call the little fish of January 6th have been charged so far. And, I'm not a big mass incarceration guy. So if somebody entered the Capitol and didn't fight and do physical violence, I'm okay with them getting 6 months or whatever. But they're not who I'm interested in. Obviously anybody who assaulted a police officer should be charged and penalized the way that American society penalizes all the other people who, get convicted of assaulting a police officer.
Yeah, here's my problem with that, Will. We walk into a post office, we break into a post office, you're going away for 5 years without even a question. You break into the U.S. Capitol with the intent, and everybody there, stop the steal. They knew what they were walking in there for. They were there to stop the certification of the presidential election. To me, that is a much bigger crime than just walking into a post office. But if you and I walk into a post office unauthorized, we're going to jail for a long time.
Well, I mean, Rick, we're liberals, so or progressives or whatever we are this week. But yeah, we're not conservatives, so it's a little different, right? No, I'm kidding, but yeah, I, I hear you, but I guess my point here is that this debate about how these 600 people are being punished. The real question for me is, what is the Justice Department doing? What is Merrick Garland doing? Um, we don't know. I mean, for all we know, they'll surprise us in 3 months with this mega indictment that includes Trump and everybody. But I don't think we're really seeing the signs that there's an aggressive, high level conspiracy investigation going on. When, many legal experts, the more they look at this, say there's clearly a case for a broader conspiracy. I think you heard an argument last week that fraud may have been committed by these people in their efforts to undo the election. This John Eastman. The thing is, every day we're getting a new report, and a lot of this is confirming stuff that's already out there. I mean,
Exactly.
this whole Willard Hotel thing kind of drives me nuts in a way, because I mean, there were pictures of these activities at the Willard Hotel were online in January,
That day.
and people like these internet sleuths like Seth Abramson, who some people love him and some people don't love him or whatever, but I mean, he's pieced together who was at these meetings, and it's a who's who of everybody. They were in a war room. They were in a war room because they were launching a war. They were launching a war on democracy, and that's why they had a war room. And
Yeah.
if we're not going to do anything about that,
No, I mean, you couple this with the actions of Trump, and you've got the audio recording of him, telling the Secretary of State in Georgia to basically go searching through the couch cushion and find me 12,000 votes
yeah,
so that I can get what I need to put the plan that we now have seen in writing by Attorney Eastman into practice, so that on January 6th they can have their military go in and overthrow this. There's a straight line here for me, because I don't know if you've seen the videos of the guys who are all dressed up in their military garb, hand on the shoulder, marching up and getting into formation. They didn't just, we want a better vantage point to look. They strategically placed themselves in positions to do exactly what they did. You don't just have a gallows in your trunk that just pops up out of nowhere. I'm sorry, that's not how this plays out.
yeah. I mean, these oath keepers that you were referencing here. I was writing about them back in 2010. I did a book called The Backlash about the Tea Party movement, which was kind of the cousin of the Trump movement. And these people, I mean, they're blowhards on some level, but it reached the point where they decided they weren't going to be all talk, that they were going to do something. And I mean, you're absolutely right. It's pretty scary. And and I'm glad you mentioned the thing about Trump and the phone calls to Georgia, and he was doing the same thing here in Pennsylvania, right? And because again, I'm not a lawyer, I'm not a legal authority, but I know enough about conspiracy to know that you have to have, two or more discrete acts, right, to do something. So to me, I look at these phone calls to Raffensperger in Georgia and some of the other officials. This is election tampering. He's the president of the United States with tremendous political and governmental power, telling them to find votes, which is fraud basically, and it's definitely election tampering. So that's one discrete act, and then short of that, he's on the internet telling people to come. Trump is telling people to come to Washington on January 6th. That it's going to be wild. Steve Bannon is working with him on his podcast, telling people that it's going to be crazy, and the whole
All
thing's going
hell's
to go
gonna
down.
break loose.
All hell's going to break loose. That's the phrase I was looking for. But and it's a conspiracy, Rick. I mean, come on. I mean, that's all there is to it. And so
And it's just not
That,
January 6th, Will. It's not just for that day. I look at this most recent poll put out by the researchers at the Religion Research Institute. They've come out and said that 39% of Republicans, of Trump voters, believe violence may be necessary. True American patriots may have to resort to violence to save American democracy. This is, and look, not just 39% of Republicans, 11% of Democrats, 17% of independents. The pot is boiling to this point to where there could be even more bloodshed in the street because of this insanity.
yeah, to this movement, they're not seeing January 6th as the be all and end all. They're seeing January 6th as the kind of Munich beer hall putsch, kickoff, right? And now we're seeing thank God we haven't seen an event like January 6th, but it feels like we're seeing the build up to something, my last couple of columns, you referenced the one about the January 6th conspiracy, but my next column was about exactly this, the increasing violence, embrace of violence on the far right.
Right, which brings me to the trial this week of that Kyle Rittenhouse.
Yeah.
You have a column on this, and I think it's important that people understand that all of this stuff plays together. It's all intertwined in the rewriting of history and events. And look, the right is looking at this Rittenhouse trial as he's going to be the savior of the moment. He's going to be their icon, and you could see it already lining up into places.
Yeah, in a way, you can't. Even if he's found guilty, which, with this wacko judge running the case, I'm not really. That's going to be perhaps tough to pull off. But if Rittenhouse is found guilty, he's going to be a martyr, and if he's found not guilty by reason of self-defense, he's going to be even more of a hero to these people. I think the reactions are already locked in. But it's important. This isn't just a trial of a teenager. This is a trial on vigilantism, and if that's going to be allowed in the streets of America.
Yeah. Now, here's the thing, Will, and I'm sure you probably know them too. I know people who it's their fantasy. They are waiting for the next civil war. They've been, I know a guy who's been storing rice and guns all over the central region here in Pennsylvania because that day's coming. We're going to have to rise up. And they think that they're going to refight the battles of old, only this time going to get the right outcome.
Right. Yeah. That's always a mindset. You've always got that kind of Civil War mindset out there. And what's different from people who maybe thought that way 20 or 30 years ago is now you have people like Donald Trump or like other higher ups in the Republican Party who, instead of trying to tamp down this rhetoric, encourage it. The classic example that gets talked about a lot is the mid '60s with the John Birch Society, and for all their flaws, and they had many flaws, but William F. Buckley or even Barry Goldwater, who was I think a little bit less flawed, but flawed, they at least tamped down the most dangerous extreme elements on the far right. I'm not celebrating what they accomplished, but
right.
at least that was the momentum, and there's nothing like that now. Nobody's, you've got the leaders of the party out here chanting "Let's go Brandon," which means that's my next column, by the way.
It's not even the leaders. I was at a hockey game the other night, and you got nitwits running around screaming that like they're in on something that nobody else understands, and you go.
Well, their entire political movement is based on owning the libs, right? And it really stands for nothing else, as I'm pointing out in this column that I'm working on tonight. I'm writing right now, but you've got a situation where 0 Republicans on Capitol Hill will vote to do anything about climate change, which is threatening mankind. Zero Republicans on Capitol Hill think that America should join every other nation in offering paid family leave. 0 Republicans on Capitol Hill think that, America should do something about the fact that we're one of the world's laggards on offering childcare to under 5 children in this country, or that, we have this outrageous, extortionary higher education system in this country. All they care about is grievance and resentment, and they love this chant because they can say, "See how triggered you are," and I guess you know it's kind of it's always damned if you do. You can ignore it and it just gets worse, or you can respond and then you're a snowflake, we're owning you. It's like their game.
Yeah, no, I responded. I
yeah,
responded. I said, "You're showing me your 60 IQ. Keep it up. You go, buddy.
Yeah.
Go, Brandon, and take you with him."
Yeah, but the problem, but as I mean, the problem is if you're playing their game, whether you win or lose. The game should be helping out the middle class in this country, and they're not playing that game at all. And and
no, you're
by not. Yeah.
That is such an important point, because all of the stuff in this Build Back Better plan that should be going through, that is overwhelmingly popular, would help these people, especially some of the ones that I see saying these idiotic chants. It would actually help their lives get better, and yet no, we got to own the libtards, even if it means my kids don't eat.
Yeah, or I can't go to work. I can't go back to work because I don't have childcare, or my kid's going to fall behind. Your kid's falling behind because he doesn't have pre-K, and then if he makes it through high school, he can't afford community college, let alone 4-year college anyway. So, I mean that's the America, and the thing is, the more people get locked out of opportunities because they don't have higher education or they don't have these things, the more resentful they get. It's a spin cycle, and it's tragic for the country.
No, you are absolutely right. It's just one of those things that makes you go, wow, where do you go from here? But Will, I appreciate you taking some time. Great work you do over there at the Philly Inquirer. I hope folks will take a look at the work. The January 6th Conspiracy is Hiding in Plain Sight, written by my good friend Will Bunch. Will, keep up the great work. Love having you on. Hope you'll come back again real soon.
Oh, anytime. I love coming on, Rick. Thanks for having me.
Good stuff. Seriously, make sure you check out Will's work over there at the Philadelphia Inquirer. Gonna take a quick break. Right back after this. Stick around. You're listening to the Rick Smith Show. We're working people. Come to talk.
Remembering that united we bargain, divided we beg. Rick Smith.